Do you need me and Jason to help you in?
No, I should be fine. Thank you much.
All right. All right. You don't mind if Jason's here, right?
No, don't think we've met.
Hi, I'm Jason.
Hello there, Jason. My name is John Bailey. How are you?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
I'm just fine. Thank you much.
All
I
right.
see you've upgraded, Mr. Chavez. You go from bench talks to boat talks here, huh?
My bench became endless conversations, which I don't mind, right? It's part of my job, but this, I switch between standing, sitting, but this is an alternative to driving around, dealing with locals, getting in a car crash with someone driving in the opposite lanes, and just, I get to escape a little, you know?
Yeah, fair enough. You can always appreciate a good boat ride.
Yep.
Can't say I've had one in a while, but... Oh, alrighty.
Yep.
Where you normally head to there?
Oh, we're just going. We're just going.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So, what is on your mind, Bailey?
Well, a few things. It was sort of brought to my attention in regards to a few conversations or topics that have been brought up. In regards to a few things that has been said. One of them was in regards to Class 2s and charges. I wanted to get your take as to your thoughts when those were happening with robberies of security firms.
Well, I can do you one better.
All right.
Is this the conversation with like Turner and Company?
It was brought to my attention at some point in regards to the wording.
Yeah,
And
I will.
I was asked to give my opinion on it.
Sure. So this is I'm gonna give you the full breadth of things.
Alrighty.
The first is legislation has turned into the equivalent to feature requests in in the software industry, where it's just thing after thing after thing. So each piece of legislation is very isolated, very scoped to resolve a immediate concern. Instead of, and as such, has turned into 80 separate documents. Point number 2, or sub-point to that, it becomes very, very difficult for anyone to reasonably understand what isn't illegal, what the extent of it is, due to the sheer volume. And that volume is likely to continue. Next major bullet point. The Department of Justice, outside of their given powers, have introduced new penal charges without the legitimate process of, adding legislation, having it discussed by legislative authorities, thus making things illegal simply because they feel like it. If I want to be less, hyperbolistic, if that's a word, it is because BCSO, just a couple of those guys, went crying. And I say crying because that's what it is when you go to a fucking justice and ask for a charge instead of contacting the appropriate authorities behind it, legislative bodies, and say, we need this. And that included conversations like, gangs have too much money. Is there any data? Are there any facts? No, they're just feelings and words on the street, thus resulting in certain charges going up by 10x. And certain things like contraband, including things that should be legal. And under the guise of all of this, we ended up with jump boots and like cards becoming illegal, even though they were used by normal law-abiding citizens to do their day-to-day job. And while we could say, well, did anyone talk to them? No. Post facto discussion is not a solution. right? I mean, obviously there was conversation, but that's not like a good excuse, right?
No, it shouldn't have happened after the fact anytime. I agree.
And so, and then there's the third bullet point, which is the DOJ, seemingly, despite me explaining it, does not understand what precedent and case law is. As a consequence of finding out that they're not really, shouldn't be really writing shit up to begin with, started to, I think, under the lens of the desires of maintaining power, and I say that like not as some sort of like Dr. Evil sort of thing, but just a normal human behavior of like, I'm a justice, I should be able to create law, right? I think that sort of non-intentional malicious position resulted in them trying to add new penal charges and legislation through quote-unquote case law improperly. This started with the Grayson incident, where Grayson claimed, denied that hot guns were legislative. And in a case with Future Hendrix, in that case, he said as such, and he didn't end up charging Future Hendrix for a bunch of things that were associated with the gun, outside of the scope of the trial. Now, from that, his name was dragged through the mud. It was fuck Grayson season. It was so bad, he literally got ousted over it. And instead of talking to him like a fucking adult and actually passing legislation, working with us, getting it passed, they just shit talk. And their grand plan was, we're going to take that court case as justices and we're going to make hot guns legal. And in that conversation, I told them, that's not how it works. Precedent is set. Precedent is a ruling by a sitting judge or justice or whatever. And based on that ruling, in the specific case, it becomes precedent, meaning that the decision becomes something that becomes a default. If you say that in a court case, if you say green boots are naturally discriminatory, I don't know, I'm making some shit up just for the point of it, because, and this is my legal determination based on the Constitution and existing legislation, we are going to charge this guy for it, right? Based on whatever law. Now, everyone with now when it becomes case law, everyone with green boots can be charged with it, and you can point at that case law. You cannot say the opposite. You can't make, anyways.
Well, that's the same thing that we ran into, though, with the whole harboring a fugitive aspect. The precedent of that is because it was accepted that in the original filing, that charge became accepted because the actual thing had not been fully vetted. And that led to what has happened or has been established to those two charges that were announced at the meeting today.
Yes.
But the precedent was set based upon him accepting the deal, though it did not fit.
Yes.
And so by default, the precedent was set incorrectly.
Exactly. And now, the concern, so these are all like, may seem like unrelated points, but they're related in that we need to understand.
Mr. Chavez.
I'm sorry?
Tie it together,
yes.
Mr. Chavez.
Yes. So, in lieu of like this being the reality of the system that's happening, we're now dealing with a case where, unlike in the past, a new scheme is being utilized when it comes to bank trucks, when it comes to robbery of a financial institute, etc., etc., where if you are found robbing said thing, you are hit with not just the charge, which claims itself to be an umbrella, but a series of other things, possessions and everything else that came out from the outcome of it, irrespective of whether or not violence was used. Now, I believe that a lot of that confusion and varying of opinion comes from the fact that the charge is like 2 sentences, right? And so violence, which may have been intended like as a part of the robbery, did you end up shooting the cops or shooting the hostage, which breaks the umbrella, is now being utilized for the most like strict definition, which is, did you have a hostage? Also, the verbiage in there talks about like melee weapons, etc., etc. With everything in mind, the 10x charges, with the amount of time that law enforcement is using investigatively, how long it takes them down in the cells, which is a fucking waste of time, in my opinion, compared to like focusing on things like the fucking, you know, terrorists in the city and whatnot. In combination with how long people have to wait in the cells for processing a fucking, you know, Neanderthalian fucking case. My office believes that and is currently in the process of writing the criminal code for robberies. The intent of this legislation is to do a number of things. The first and foremost of which is it will define out why robberies are bad. Like, you know, it's literally like, imagine robberies were not illegal in San Andreas and we're making them legal for the first time. That is the writing style we're taking, right? Lay out why robberies are illegal, then classify them, right? What makes it robbery? What makes it first degree robbery? You know, what is petty theft? Inside of there, we're also going to be defining out what is robbery of a low security firm, or what is it? High security firm,
high security, there's robbery of a security firm, there's low whatever on top of it. There's 3 different sides.
Yes.
One's group 6, one's higher, one's low.
Yep. And the goal of which is it's going to draw clarity as to what these things are and set the framework by which any category of robbery henceforth upon its acceptance, that criminal code for robberies can be then expanded on. If the airport tomorrow starts to get hit, update it with the legislation, right? I mean, it will be written in a way where like it will still it will make room for things that may not yet occur, right? But it will also make room for specifics of locations to get added in. It also aims to legislate out what is an umbrella charge. What does it consist of precisely? So that we can remove all this kind of uninteresting debate, let's call it. Now, when some of these things were brought up with Turner, Maxwell, and Doc, which is the only law enforcement I believe I spoke to. Now, keep in mind, we didn't really go into the depths of like the full reasoning as to why it's happening. I went in there to ask about robbery of a high security firm, which, if you notice, is written very different from
Security
financial
firm is
institute
different from the other 2, yes.
Yeah. So
financial institute versus, there's 2 of those versus security firm, which is different. Yes, it does.
Yeah. And that, I think, can lead to a lot of... Yes, please.
I'd happily clarify, because I did weigh on with Turner and some of this. And you don't have access to MDT next to you, do you?
Mm-hmm. I do.
All right. So, fair enough. If you take a look at that just for a second, if you look at security firm, right?
Yep.
Sick. And by all means, I would like differing opinions here and would like pushback if you see it differently than I do. All right? So robbery of a security firm, and I apologize. I'm not trying to treat you like a second grader that can't read, but it's just part of my verbalization aspect to it.
No, I like that. I like that.
Any person or group of people who forcibly remove or attempt to steal anything of values in the care, custody, control, management, or possession of a Group 6 worker who's currently on duty. All right, so that's lay person working at Group 6. These are the bank trucks that individuals are doing. That's all inclusive, right? This charge will encompass any charges that occur as part of the robbery, including brandishing of melee weapons, unlawful imprisonment, aggravated petty, evading, resisting, etc. All right, so we take this side to it, and I believe the incident was taken in regards to a Class 2 that was on an individual that they were being charged for, right? So,
wait, this incident?
This was the one that I was being described to.
So, that, I can tell you, was a point of confusion in the conversation in the lobby. And for clarity, that was an example that was brought up. It was not what, how do I put this? It was an example.
Actual reality?
Not that it wasn't reality. It wasn't like the heart of this was not because of that, right? It was an example of like, here's an example of someone getting charged with it. This is what happens today, right? Rather than what happened to this individual was egregious and now all these things are changing because of it, right?
So fair.
Yes.
I guess I won't pretend to know the full context then if it's different from what I have. So
no, but please go ahead. I'd like to understand anyways.
So my understanding that was presented to me, right, was that, say, a philosophical individual that was part of this has a Class 2 on them. They were GSR negative, so they didn't actually use the weapon in the robbery, right?
Correct.
And so we look at the charge itself, and as the charge states, one second, let me just pull it up again. This charge will encompass any charges that occur as part of the robbery. Well, guess what? If they're still doing the robbery, my interpretation is this, is that even if they have that, possession, while that is not being used, is still a finable offense. And so, regardless of it, if they are GSR negative, that is not part of the robbery. That is separate from what is happening. Even if they didn't use it there, even if they never brandished it, they are still possessing that weapon.
So, and this is where I think clarity is important, because here's another reading of it, which I think equally fits, is that this charge will encompass any charges that occur as a part of the robbery, right? Any charges that occur as a part of the robbery. As of right now, without reading past this, it's saying include everything that happens, right? Now, it then talks about the exclusions, right? Because what it is including is kind of irrelevant, right? Because they could also put prostitution in there, right? And it would work, you know? It's just examples. So it then goes on and says, excluding, if we were to think of it a different way, the use of a firearm or additional violence. The problem becomes, what does use of a firearm mean, right? Now, I can see it, and my first reading of it, and the reading of others, is that the use of would imply that the weapon was seen being used to hold somebody up. The weapon was discharged, right? But the mere possession is not an inference of use, right? And so now, why I don't want to get too much into a debate of what the intent of use was or what it could have meant when it was written or whatever, is I think it further points out why this criminal code for robbery is so valuable, right? It allows for things to be significantly more clear-cut. And, you know, of those that maybe in the Department of Justice that like there to be room for debate. This isn't really what does use mean is not exactly the most entertaining, like mind-scratchingly interesting, debate to happen in the middle of a courtroom. But rather, we want to bring clarity into what these things mean in legislation, why they exist. And then as things change in society, in court cases, etc., that legislation can evolve, right? Alongside, the rest of our criminal code. So.
Fair enough. So how would you, with your proposed thing, without me actually seeing that, how would you say that is clarified? And I can understand how you present it as a way to look at it the other way as well. I say my interpretation is different. Yours is different as well. I think there is room for debate there, but I'm interested to hear the difference of.
Yes,
in terms of your proposal.
How would this charge change?
Yes.
I am of the belief that, by principle, umbrella charges are a tool to reduce the administrative burden of processing like uninteresting scenes entirely. I think it's a waste of police time spending 2 hours like fucking collecting shit and this, and they still got to do that, mind you, but like debating all this. Secondly, as a consequence of the, I will use the word, illegal fines that were changed with everything, there's also a huge negative impact on the fines are already cracked out of this world. And what is the goal of this charge? The goal of this charge is, let's reduce the administrative burden. Let's reduce the debate burden. And that umbrella charge will effectively be everything that is used will be included in a robbery of a security firm. With the exception, which will then be bullet pointed, Class 3 possession of Class 3 firearms, attempted violent acts, and this is going to be like it'll be defined at the top, violent like acts, let's call it, or violent, whatever we want to call the phrase, which would be in the definition section, which includes shooting cops, shooting civilians, like discharging the firearm, like that category will be excluded. So they're explicit exclusions, whereas possessions would be a part of it. You know what I mean? Let me give you a little bit more background as to why this is necessary for the safety of San Andreas, for the public good. First and foremost, I will say outrightedly that our city is not in our control. The city is in control of the investors that put their money into this damaged land of ours. And for whatever fucking reason, insurance money is, quite frankly, running everything. We can dive into that a bit, but all you got to do is question, anytime that Maze Bank is hit, anytime that Fleeca Bank is hit, is that money actually going back into the bank? No, it's sitting in the fucking evidence locker. Insurance is paying out the wazoo. Not a single bank has been closed down. So insurance, whether it's fraud, whether it's this or that, don't matter. Secondly,
that money gets put right back at the end of the day. Yes.
Secondly, whether we accept it or whether we do not accept it, the reality is that our economy runs on criminal activity. The police department wouldn't exist if places weren't robbed. In fact, I think the recruitment will go down by 80%.
It's the same for hospitals. They wouldn't exist if people didn't get sick.
Absolutely. Now, when you kind of look at through a certain, with a particular lens, whether people accept this or not, willing to say this outright or not, if there was a button right here on this boat that shut down every bank except the one filled with like 100 military units, you know, no one would want that button pressed. No one would truly want banks to be shut down. My point, because they know this to be true. Right now,
we know what to be true there.
That
everything runs.
Our economy runs on a military police department facing off against a criminal groups that rob banks, all paid for by insurance companies. Or however you want to dice it up.
Well, you're not entirely incorrect with it.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times those things actually occur? It's pretty frequent.
Yes. But let's say you don't buy that. There's another point here. Is that right now what's happening on the street is every small little ring of crime is shutting down. Small groups literally are going so bankrupt that their groups are collapsing. And this is a factor I need to consider. People are flying out of the city and not coming back, just straight up. And I know of, even just this last 2 weeks, 3 groups that fall into that category. Now, I only touch this subject because I'm with you, and I think you understand that as mayor, it is something I need to be considerate of, right? Are things so bad that they can be chokeholding and suffocating folks? It's been happening for a while. It's worse now. And a large part of this is these fines. If somebody goes and gets arrested, they're losing over $100,000 of equipment and getting charged with $100,000 of fines. And they didn't even for a second fire that gun. And so what happens, Bailey, and I say this with evidence, this isn't theory, is that these small crews are losing people, are disbanding, and finding that the only option that they have is joining a monolith like Hades, Hydra, you name it, go down the list, like the 5 or 6 that exist, and becoming one of their weed sellers, or hoping to sit at that table so they get a chance. And that monolith, all right, monolith criminal organizations are not conducive to a safer society, right? It creates mega corps. You know what I'm saying?
I never knew of a mayor to advocate so hardly for crime to exist.
No, it's a reduction of crime. What would you be more afraid of? Al-Qaeda or 15, small criminal organizations spread around the city?
Well, frankly, at least a common goal can be established, usually with the Al-Qaeda side, and much easier to track them. 15 individual ones that pop out for 15 different times or have completely different motives and things that happen, it might be a little scarier.
The small ones are less dangerous. The big ones are a serious threat, you know?
The small ones as a collective can be bad.
Yes, which they're not, mind you. Yeah. These are friend groups, small little groups that try to get by, right? No one here is, just to be clear, no one here is advocating that they do crime. The big piece is that they continue their crime, but do so by assisting, the mega groups. We're pretty, I mean, it's if you want to draw some parallels, it literally is, Afghanistan, right?
Well, what I'm saying, Mr. Chavez, there's a lot fundamentally incorrect of what happens here. And, from a citizen's standpoint, one could argue and say the complete opposite should be true as well, that those opportunities for what we run on and the city runs on should be more attractive for those individuals to be civilians than anything else. I know you laugh at that one.
You think, man, people can fucking fly to San Andreas of all places in order to live their fucking civilian life? No. All these poor bastards that come down here thinking that they're gonna fucking, run a business, this and that. Hell fucking no. You know that. I know that, right?
Well, I had to put it out there to do the due diligence of making sure that I at least answered in that sort of capacity.
Mm-hmm.
I think you understand that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely.
But there is a level of that where promoting those sort of things versus deterring versus correcting what is fundamentally correct or incorrect becomes a hard conversation with this, because it's, if you change one, do you change the entire fundamentality of things that are happening? Do you change the activity of the larger groups in a way that becomes much more frequent and much more advanced in a way? And are you creating those smaller ones to be able to do the same thing that the largest one do, and then create a bigger problem than what it is to have the monolith ones by themselves? Because if the smaller ones are able to do the same things that the bigger ones can do, now you have 10 problems versus what is one.
I will say that I'm not delusioned to believe that I'm some sort of god playing with the population and trying to drive things in any direction. I will say that this is a thing that is in the back of my mind, but it is the second notion of the crippling of everybody. Now, I know that because while I do think that creating an environment where we're turning small crews into effectively grinders for big crews to like crack out class 2 weapons like they're candy, it seems absolutely more destructive than the opposite. Now, this position is not, once again, is based on having spoken to many, many, many groups, and it's been a long-standing conversation for some time. Both ducks.
Yep. See that.
And obviously, I'm not going to name who they are, but I'm very much having spoken to a lot of these groups, and it just destroys them. Literally, one thing: destroyed. And
who is, if you don't mind, who has been destroyed? Because you mentioned that there are a few of them that have gone away.
I think it's important that I don't name them because you're an extension of the law, right? And them having told me these things in confidence would be, I think, negligent of me, right? I don't want to remove people's ability to think that they can, speak to their concerns without it getting out. You know what I mean? But I can, there's quite a few.
And I can advocate that. And also, you have to understand that one may think this, and I'm not saying that this is my mindset and things, but if you say that same sentiment to somebody else and have that, you say, all right, well, does that mean our mayor is now siding with criminal organizations?
I side with the people, right? And I think, unfortunately, for a while, the police think that I'm only their advocate, right? I am forced into a position where I need to think about everybody. Because here's the thing, Bailey, and I will say this, is that my ties go back very, very long, as you know. And if I truly fought in a one pane of class way, I would continue being a criminal. I would join any one of these gangs that offer me on the daily to join them. And I would fill and line their pockets with the hundreds of millions of dollars that are in the bank account. and no one would do shit about it. And I think that reality alone, I think, you know, I would actually be a danger. But that's not my intent. It's not why I became mayor. I think,
Well, why did you continue to become mayor? After last time we had spoke, you said the court center up and running, that was going to be the end of it, and that you're hanging it up. To my knowledge, the court center is done.
That's right. Oh, I am hanging it up. Wait, did I not tell you this?
Oh, well, you said that you will potentially end it early and have step down after that.
Well, you know, I'd love to go through story time, Bailey, but it's a more difficult, it's a longer conversation which we can have after the fact, you know?
All right, fair enough.
Yep. So I don't want you to get too hamstrung on, you know, small groups versus big groups, and but the sheer reality is that we had is that we have to look at the history of what's taken place over the last 6 months as a part of the calculus here. And part of that last 6 months is this hiking up of fines. But then also what has been a slowing case of, let's call it stacking. Not even very particular to this, but it creates an environment where we genuinely are trying to fully eliminate crime under the guise of very simple. This is Michael, you know him, right?
Yes, we need to speak at some point regarding your website.
Yeah,
Sure.
At some point.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
I think the class 2 let me give you another piece of something that's very important, right? Bank trucks today are a critical component to, let me just say it straight. Bank trucks are something that every criminal organization is pointed towards. And most of these class 2s that are showing up at these bank trucks are a consequence of you cannot do a bank truck without a class 2. Because if you do not bring that, you will die.
To who?
To the other gangs. Because, and I will say that I'm having a very intimate conversation with Group 6 because they've effectively created a San Andreas TDM match. All the shit they used to hear on the cargo ship is now happening on the streets.
Fair enough.
So
but it's also
there's
at
sort
the
of like
same
two
side
powers.
to this. It doesn't make it right for having it.
I think there is a major distinction between having out of necessity and having with the intent of using it in violent acts. And I think that distinction is important because, you know, Group A that does it out of necessity is a much lesser evil than Group B, who has it with the intention and history, etc., of using it to mow down each and every law enforcement officer. I think it is also a fool's errand to think that once you're arrested, you lose it anyways, right? So, you know, it doesn't really solve anything. There is no dissuasion tactic being used by having them lose like a, God knows, $50, $80, $100,000 weapon, and on top of it, get charged with a, $40,000 or whatever the fuck it is, merely for its use. Because think about this calculus, right, Bailey? You, me, Michael, and Jason are about to shit's bad, all right? We're about to go rob some shit, all right? the three of us are gonna have to get a kit worth $100,000, right? Let's say 100,000. It might even be more. We need to, because if we don't bring this kit, Hydra, besties, etc., are literally just going to shoot us the moment we arrive at that bank truck. We now need to shoot to defend ourselves. The cops see us. They're going to shoot us. We got to kill them. Now,
son, this sounds like algebra, not calculus.
Oh, the calculus didn't. Well, it is velocities. Hang tight. That's because you're multivariable calculus, right?
I'm looking at area of the curve. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. So we are risking, as of right now, with just 4 people. We can make it 6. We'll pretend there's 6. $600,000 in equipment, and just participate, right? And now the question becomes: we have 600,000. You know, let's even make it simpler. 600,000. We're robbing a bank. We're robbing Fleeka Bank, right? We won't even add the gang aspect to it. We have $600,000 of shit. No, it doesn't. $600,000 of shit. If we get caught with this, we're gonna get charged with an additional $600,000 on top of what we lose. Because of that insane, what we're gonna, not only what we're gonna lose, we can calculate out 600,000, but we get caught, that's a cracked amount. So it is mathematically better for us to mag dump the shit out of the cops to get away.
You know what I'm going to say with this thing? Then whoever the hell is supplying them with these weapons needs to charge them less if that's truly the case, because it sounds to me like you're breaking these small groups because they can't afford to do so and forcing them to make money by then selling it to the larger ones. Huh.
Wait, what?
It sounds like I said, the cost of these things, if I need $100,000, whatever the hell damn cost is, that needs to be about 25. You said we have all the... I'm joking, by the way.
No, I recognize that, but that's the equivalent of saying, like, we need, you know, whoever's stalking the money in the banks need to raise the banks. That's none of those things are in our control, right?
It's more of a figure even now. I was trying to hold in laughter as to regards to half of this. What I'm saying with this, Mr. Chavez, is you're having something there as an illegal act and justifying it with having to have more things that are inherently illegal to do these, and the order to get out has to be even more illegal to begin with, because your risk in doing these is so high that you risk losing so much that they are forced to then go to even more egregious acts to do even more things that is causing additional violence.
And I am going to argue that the only reason I have to do this is because the DOJ already used that exact logic to dislodge everything. Because we didn't start this conversation. Like I said, history matters. The DOJ self-decided because of some dimwits that everyone had millions of dollars, so let's increase fines by 10x, thus creating the situation to begin with.
And what was the, if you don't mind, result that you had with the 50% reduction we get? Under the guise
that it would prevent people from using Class 2s, from shooting cops more, and look at what's happened, right?
It's continually happening.
It is.
It has happened all the time. I don't think that has stopped by any means.
Oh, no. That is not true.
What do you mean? Do you think it's happened
cop wipes have only just recently started going up?
No, what I'm saying is that continually happens.
Wait, what is that?
Cop wiping. I don't think...
No, it's been a thing, not at this frequency.
I'm saying it has been a thing. I'm not trying to say that it hasn't. In regards to having or affecting it, I think it has I don't know if it's a 1x, 2x, 3x, or if it's steady state. I don't have how that has increased or decreased over time that has went on. If there's factual information and data that says that they have gone up, 1-fold, 2-fold, 200%, 300%, whatever the hell it is, that is information that should be used to inform decisions.
I agree.
That was entirely part of why the hell, whenever we decided to remake half the DOJ side to this, that we had someone in there that was supposed to give us a breakdown of charges and how often and how frequent and how much they have been charged. Because of that, it was going to be used to inform actually the information of how much those charges were actually being put out.
I agree.
Adjust for those accordingly and using factual information and data to begin with. Unfortunately, the person that we had lasted all of about 3 weeks.
You're talking about the data analyst in the marshal's office?
A long time ago, yes.
Yep, I'm very aware of her. She was going to join our office, and because she gave me her V card, Angel fired her. I wish I was joking.
Your outside life is
Well,
anyway.
it's not, because it's not outside, because
Well, I understand.
Olive was
became
witnessed
part of it.
Nova, Marshall Nova witnessed Olive, who was the person down there, who's extremely brilliant, mind you, gave me her V card. Nova saw it all, and the next day she was literally it's not even like this isn't some literally completely got cut off. Marshall started literally just degrading her, and then she was fired. You know what they did? They said,
you should close the damn door there, Mr. Chavez.
I run a very open office.
Yeah, clearly.
There's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? Transparency is good.
If I get someone damn fired, close it. That door. Who the hell's walking in? If you having someone handing over a car, that damn important.
We were
lock the
doing
damn
business.
door. Yeah, clearly you're doing business. You're doing the business.
Yeah. So it's not that she lasted. It's that it's you know, yeah.
Well, you're saying you lasted. I got it.
I have lasted.
Do you maybe want to
I'm
clarify what that V
confused.
card was?
Yeah, well,
Because,
what's
I
so bad
remember.
about giving someone a Valentine's Day card?
No, it wasn't that.
Oh.
I remember
okay.
what it was. I
All
think
right.
Nino is just withholding information right now to skew the context.
Oh my God. It's called humor. All right, Michael.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You know what? Fuck you, okay?
Yo, what do you mean,
Yeah.
fuck you? All right? We wouldn't have had this funny moment if it wasn't for that. What do you want? Oh, I got a card with the letter V that she called the V card. Oh, man. Yes.
No, that wasn't it. See,
Yeah.
now you're misrepresenting the situation entirely. It was because you have a V in your last name.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you got the V card, which she was giving out to people who had V's in their name.
Yeah, but that's not what
Comedy
she...
is not your thing there, Michael. Stick to the
Yeah,
legal side.
yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah. Jesus Christ. All right.
So it was for Valentine's Day?
No, it wasn't for Valentine's Day. Michael wasn't there. It was me, Nova, and she said it. Okay. Anyways, irrelevant. We're getting off track. Where were we
I
going
don't
with
know
this?
what the hell's point we're trying to make now.
I agree that data needs to be used, but it hasn't been
It
used.
should be.
It should be 100%.
That was the entirety of why we hired that individual.
Yes.
And when we were doing charges, when we were doing times, I had them pull a bunch of that. It would be nice if there actually was something in this day and MDT that would run a report for you. But guess
I
what?
agree.
That doesn't exist. It's a lot of manual labor that nobody wants to do the damn job of. I don't blame them for not wanting to, because frankly, do all that work. Reality is nothing may change.
Doing the work is fine. I mean, sorry. Understanding, I get nobody wants to do it. Maybe she didn't want to do it. I don't know. the fact of the matter is, though, that these penal code hikes were happened in isolation by individuals on the behest of a subsection of the police department under a political belief that it would make some changes. And it was so bad that it's been crippling folks for some time. There was no data to bring it in. It completely flipped the economy upside down. And now we're here, right?
So you're saying that individuals are much more desperate because they're already down bad. They already have everything. Well, they don't already have everything, but in regards to weapons, etc., they're much more likely to use them because it means that much more to them right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a much broader picture here, right? That I don't think one conversation would be able to fully take in.
About the entirety of a city's finances.
Yeah.
For an extended period of time.
Yes, and it hurts, like, even if you ignore, like, bank trucks and class 2s and this, that, and the third, right? It also falls into play that, you got a tampered firearm, right? Like a fucking, what is it? Like a deagle. Inside of a Fleeca bank, right? With 3 people, right? It's such crippling debt that it becomes like, well, we got to do this. We need the bigger shit. We don't have the bigger shit. A risk of getting caught, like, it just completely devastates people, and it's why people do crime in the first place, right? It's like,
let me ask.
Yeah.
And I don't need to know your source.
Sure.
What's the approximate street value of a Desert Eagle? What would you put that as?
Oh, I don't fucking know that.
Jason, Michael, do you have any idea?
Not a clue.
Nope.
Oh, come on now.
You want to know the real answer is I don't think people have Deagles very often. I think everyone's running around with class 2s because that's all they can find their hands on.
All right. What's the approximate street value of a class 2 then?
Last I heard, it was $60,000 to $100,000.
60 to 100 grand.
Yeah.
All right. And how much would you estimate that individuals actually get out of doing whatever one of these robberies is?
Apparently, like a joke amount. Apparently, the bank truck. See, this is what makes. Man. Bailey, people are that fucked and desperate that they've told me how this shit works so that I can understand it. And even to the extent that they're telling cops how it works because they're that desperate. With the situation being that desperate. Apparently the bank truck doesn't have jack shit in it. It is the keystone to everything else in the city that you can rob.
So you do that for whatever the hell is inside of it, so
Yes.
you might need something to do the other thing.
You need to be there. I mean, fuck it. At the back of a G6 truck is a card that gives you access to Fleeca Bank, Polito Bank, like you fucking name it.
So people do these for these cars. They don't do it for anything inside of it, maybe a menial amount, but they try to do it for the other bigger stuff.
Yeah. And that's why I've been trying to talk to Group 6 and being like, hey, I know you got money to move, but maybe don't put like a fucking card to the entire city in the back of there that is so valuable that gangs are killing each other to get it and then realizing how high their fines are going to be. So taking the calculated risk of wiping the cops, right? Because wiping the cops is financially, it's a gamble, right? When you're already have $250,000, right? No. How much is it? When you already got $600,000 on the table, right? And maybe more than $600,000 because you shot a gang member. So that now let's bring it to like $900,000. You might as well shoot the cops because that's $900,000 saved, as opposed to risking another, I don't know, half of that amount, right? Especially when you weigh in how good some of them are at it.
How much figuratively, say if you went and successfully took money in the Polito vault, how much would you get out of that?
I don't know the amount, but less than the equipment. But that's what I remember.
So you have a continuing effect of the equipment costs more than what you get out of it.
No,
so
because
the equipment is more valuable than what is inside itself.
It's a rolling effect, right?
Yes, it is.
And it's a rolling effect in that your investment initially is to do all the various stages or branches or this entering into an area. I don't know how it all works. So some of it is speculation, but it's like a rolling thing, right? So who fucking knows? They get the card, they then do, I don't know, the Fleeca Bank, and then maybe they do Polito, and then, or maybe they do Maze, and then they do Polito. Like, who fucking knows? You know what I mean? But it's, that buy-in is a, you know, it's a rolling investment, right? But I don't want to go too deep into this, right? Because remember, this is like one of many points, right?
No, I understand.
Yeah.
I get we're down a rabbit hole of understanding a system, but the still crux of the issue is times and fines that you are issuing beforehand.
Times and fines, what can come across as the huge administrative burden, right? All these like little things. As far as I'm concerned, you fucking rob a bank, let the fucking insurance company handle it. Just fucking take this shit, give them a charge, fucking get back to work. You know what I mean? Go fucking kick these doors in for the class 2s. Go fucking investigate some shit. You know what I mean? Like, you know, but if my police department is literally just fucking sitting around with these like dog shit arguments all day on both ends of the spectrum, you know, we need to eliminate that.
Here's why I contest with you with that. If those are being used then to try to attempt to take an officer's life and they are successful for it, I would rather them kick the damn door in, figuratively. Because now you're resulting that if you leave and you're done and you do whatever the hell you need to at that point, fine. But the fact that you use it in an aggression towards another individual that takes someone's life, well then that's different.
Wait, there's no contest here. I agree.
All right, fair enough. Maybe I wasn't understanding your first point with that.
No. I want them to do that.
As they should.
They're spending all day with these other arguments. You know what I mean? I think one of the fears was like, without the possession charge, how can you use it as like PC for a pattern raid? And I was like, that's irrelevant. And that can be clarified in the legislation. You know what I mean? That an umbrella charge does not circumvent, you know, the rest of it. But this is like, at the heart of it all, though, we are getting into a part of a debate that genuinely I've been, I don't want to say avoiding, but is a smaller problem in the grand scheme of things that we're trying to resolve, right? My office is aiming to create a criminal code for robberies. If as a part of that grander debate, some of these auxiliary points come up and there's a lot of contention around it, we can discuss those, right? But the goal here is clarity. What comes secondary is how much should it cost? Like all those little things. You know what I mean?
Thanks for topic another time.
Yep, agreed. Jason, I think you wanted to say something. I just noticed the text.
Oh, I didn't know if it was appropriate.
I'm an open book as much as he's an open door with V-cards.
Probably not relevant at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Do you and Michael want to talk about the website?
Yes, Michael, have you been made aware of whoever the hell you have running your services of a quote apparently from myself that is inaccurate, that I have never stated, and is now being used as Los Santos's front page to all what is happening here with an inaccurate quote. Nor was ever asked.
No, I'm not familiar with that. I can take a look into it for you. Would you like me to remove it, or did you want to give a quote?
I would like to have it removed. I didn't give any damn permission to have my name, face, image, likeness on there. Hell
Absolutely,
no.
absolutely.
I try to stay out of the media as much as I can, my friend. I don't try to claim anything.
Yeah,
Here's how I have stayed where I am.
This is what happens when you give jobs to interns. You know what I mean? They just kind of make shit up rather than doing the work.
Yes, I don't want to have to throw over a cease and desist in an actual civil suit for something, so I'd highly recommend you take that down.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you there.
Billy, did you get a good sense of like where we're going with this?
I would like to see exactly what you're trying to do with it, and you can describe it. Describing it is fine. Seeing it is different.
I agree. That's not everything is. We're not even at that stage yet to share it.
Well, it seems to me like you have unfortunately a limited amount of time, don't you? What was it, 16 days or something like that?
No. What do you mean? Well, my hands and my typing.
Isn't your election thing going up soon there, or what? I'm estimating. Last I heard was about 20 days, and I think that might have been 3 or 4 days ago.
Oh, I don't. Oh, I'm going to be a lobbyist.
I've heard you're trying to do other plans there, my friend.
Yes. Investment company, law firm.
Yeah. Well, I've heard it starts with an S.
Eh? A sex worker? I don't know.
I think you've already succeeded that one, apparently, in getting
Senator. I was thinking about it, and then I realized things are actually so fucked. I don't want that headache. Well, okay. I'll give you a brain dump. DOJ has been reappropriating funds illegally. We found more shadow edits in legislation left by our dearest, best justice and director of all time, which added a 30-day statute of limitation on fucking impeachments and shit, which is fucking cracked as fuck. Like, and it came in right when we were thinking about pushing the impeachments to begin with, so the timeliness of it was insane. They also added
about many months ago, right?
Yes, no one fucking noticed. Like, how would you? There's no like thing, you know what I mean? But
when I was encouraging to Falconer today, I said, if you make an amendment, you keep the original one, add the amendment down to the bottom, and say what you're actually changing in the lines.
Fair enough. What else? We learned that another one of the shadow edits gave the DOJ control of the federal budget, the federal account. Do you remember the one that Max used to control, and it had hundreds of millions of dollars in it?
Yes.
Well, it was like explicitly told that that like all our shit's getting reset, right? Like, not reset, but like, you know, that's gonna get what's the word? Redundant, not redundant, like put out of service. Well, it was re-added into service, and the DOJ has been transferring money into their DOJ account, and then also funneling those funds to whoever they want to give it to. Cops need upgrades? All right, there you go. But LSPD has not been doing it, but it's been going to BCSO. It's been going here. It's been going there. And then I also learned that a certain department is using the BCSO account with those same funds as their personal investment account. They're pulling out things. They're buying properties, putting the money back in. The justices are borrowing money from officers and their subordinates in order to buy properties. It's insane.
Where the hell's Glenn at?
Glenn's been gone for months.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Here's part of this. Is maybe a small part of context when those accounts were set up. maybe it was with the level of trust behind it. Maybe that wasn't continually emphasized as it has changed hands over time. Is that there was the removal of funds and put into a larger amount, which you all see in terms of a police budget versus BCSO budget, whatever the hell it is. That is a small fraction of the amount. I would say probably is a money that's out there. Those budgets are probably about 5 to 10% of a larger account. Those things were supposed to be siphoned as a way of maybe call it a federal tax there, Mr. Chavez. A way that we go back to the state and the state hires those taxes, and that's supposed to be
yes.
And that is not supposed to be something else that is used as an intermediary of someone else's slush fund.
That's literally what's happening, Bailey.
And that should not be the case, because those are supposed to be, once again, they say federally taxed.
I recognize that. But what are you supposed to do when the moment the Constitution came up, everyone said, skip on the counties, skip on rules, skip on budgeting? You know, it's at a certain point. I don't mind being the bad guy, Bailey. I think it's fun, right? I would have loved to be what people thought I was going to be. I genuinely, but you can't really be the bad guy when everyone's like idiotically worse. You know what I mean? And probably not intentional.
Mr. Chavez, more than you probably could imagine. You know, having this boat ride out here reminds me of a time that Sam Bass and Andrews took someone out here.
Oh, I heard about that. Were you there?
No, it was on my order, my friend. I told you that one. It was a long time ago.
Oh, Jesus. Oh.
Anyway.
What?
All righty.
All right.
Well, is that my cue to get the hell out?
Yep.
All righty. Well, it's been a pleasure. Michael, if you could, please look at the website for me.
I have it on good authority. It was already changed.
All right. Well, thank you much.
Wait.
Y'all have a good one.
Meeting
Pleasure
you.
to speak with y'all. Nice meeting you as well.
All right. Take care. Wait, what if... And you sure you don't have a brother?
I'm 100% positive I do not represent the doctor whatsoever.
Oh.
I'm assuming we're going back out.
Yeah, we can go back up.
Not gonna lie, I just changed his name from John Bailey to Bon Bailey and removed his picture.
I didn't know that IC or OOC. And if he said it, I didn't catch it. And if I didn't catch it, I probably didn't really, you know, it didn't matter. But that matters now. John Bailey ordered the killing of...
Something, what was it? They don't know what SOPs are or something. What the?
Oh.
They don't know what SOPs are?
No, it wasn't SOPs, but it was something similar. I forget what one it was.
I thought the Bailey conversation was good. I think PD... Man, I wish I had said this. Hold on. 1 second. One thing I want to tell Bailey.
Hey guys, Mr. Chavez.
There is something that I wanted to say, but we got so deep into what is our philosophy and what are we trying to... I will say that on principle, I don't think, and I'd like to hear your opinion on this, I don't think it's the PD's role to worry about politics. And it's specifically in the space of, and this is what I'd like to understand, and is what is it to the PD how charges are... PD, in my opinion, should not be worrying about what is and isn't in an umbrella. Unless fundamentally they believe that those things can change behavior from a law enforcement perspective, right? And I do think that there is a bit of a, not necessarily, this isn't Turner, but with law enforcement day to day, everyday law enforcement, that the charges that they press on somebody and how big that fine in time is like they're something they should like it's in their realm. You know what I mean? Am I making sense here? I'm like trying to find the best way to...
Here's what I'm going to break this down as, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is my interpretation. What you're saying is that they should be there to enforce it, not to create it.
Correct.
And the reality is, yes, that is a thought, and they also have an opinion and voice because they're technically a citizen of the city as well.
Agreed.
And if it impacts their safety, then that's something. But in terms of the politics behind it, and by default right now, you speaking to me is at this moment a member of PD, so keep that in mind.
No, absolutely. And that's why I'm sharing it with you, right?
And, I understand.
And I think
you could say that I technically shouldn't be involved with it because I'm no longer DOJ.
No. I think you do, right? And but to be more like precise, right? Law enforcement saying like we need the cost of someone going to jail should be this amount if they shoot a cop, or should go away for this amount because of right? But an argument over like if they have arguments that are specific to law enforcement, yes, or arguments that are being made under the basis of actual public safety, right? Then yes. But of what I have heard from them is we need to be able to charge so much, and we can't have these umbrellas because there's too many class 2s on the street. That I think is a personal opinion, but the law enforcement is that should be coming from the people. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think it's important to find where those distinctions are, where it begins or where it ends, and where those opinions are being represented from. Because law enforcement is, while they are, citizens, right? They also are not they're not exactly spending their days protecting actual people either. And if the people feel more damaged by, it should be the people that are bringing this up, not them. Like, they're not spokespeople for the general public. You get what I'm saying?
I understand, yes. As part of such, it should be the enforcement of and making sure that their priority are obviously the people's side to it.
Yes.
And when you start intermixing politics into things, it becomes a very slippery game for those that enforce it versus those that create it as well. And I do think that there should be a hand-in-hand conversation with most of those individuals, at least, but a very selected few, and those that are selected for should be those that do have the best interest to represent that.
Absolutely.
And as such, I don't think, for example, it should be on one person independently. I don't think it should be on multiple. Whether that is something else, I don't know. But the reality is, you bring the class 2 part to this, the whole umbrella charge, the umbrella charge itself is less than actual possession of class 2. Not that I need to go into that, that's top of another conversation. But those things need to be appropriately done. Those advocacy things need to happen as well.
That I agree too. Like, the existing time and fine is less of a concern as opposed to the clarity, right? And then the revisiting of what that time and fine could look at is something that can be considered,
Right.
Yeah. It would still need to make sense, right? Anyways, Bailey.
Alrighty.
I appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Bye.
Take care.
Yeah, I want to let Bailey know that last thought is, I think it was a good conversation, but he's sort of echoing a lot of concerns I don't think should be in the purview of the police department. And he brought up the that they are citizens argument. While true, they're also not representatives of the citizenry, right? They're representing their lobby known as the police department. And unfortunately, their lobby is attempting to make the argument that they should stack, that time and fine should be a lot because people have too much money. It's a false dichotomy, but somehow they managed to get the DOJ to act on that false dichotomy. And what am I supposed to say when I have, you know, when we have all these people coming to us, small and large, etc., like with these issues, we can't just say no, because what they're saying actually makes sense, right?
I'll say this, right? The police department's role in the legislative process is subject matter expertise when that's requested. If they want to change the landscape of the laws, registration just open for the mayoral election, just run.
I know a lot of people who are just hopelessly in debt and just deal strictly in cash now.
It's tough because even the argument of they chose to bring class 2s, while not a reality, opens up the conversation of like, what then? Why are you choosing to, like, cops? I don't know, man. These fucking cops run into shootouts trying to get shot, and they instigate it, knowing it's going to make them money. You know what I mean? They're literally beneficiaries of this. And that's why it's hard, even during this conversation, to really take some of the positions very seriously, because it's like, you know, there's the reality that's happening, which is the only groups able to survive are massive gangs.
Yep.
And they're surviving largely in part by having a monopolization, not because they're forcing it themselves. It's